I'm joined in the studio now by two people from the Global Good Foundation. Now, a lot of you might not have have heard from the Global Good Foundation. We're going to find out a bit about them over the next half hour, because this segment, which will focus on domestic violence, in particular with the impact of domestic violence on children, we're going to be talking to Deirdre, who's got a story to tell us a little bit later. But I'm joined at the moment by Tanya Dupain, and Tanya Dupain works for the Global Good Foundation. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tanya, let's start with you first. Just tell us, what does the Global Good, who is it and what does it do?
The Global Good Foundation is a not-for-profit organisation, and we're setting up education centres beyond crisis care for people who have been impacted by domestic violence. We're setting a global standard on the rehabilitation methods that are used, and we're providing entrepreneurial opportunities through micro-lending facilities and training. And we assist those who have been impacted by domestic violence through empowerment, opportunity and education.
So who's behind Global Good?
Global Good Foundation was formed by Tenniel Bentley in 2007, and it has grown now hugely throughout WA and Australia.
So it's a homegrown product?
It is, yes, it is.
Okay, and is it only focusing on domestic violence?
It's focusing on domestic violence, but also most importantly the empowerment that can come following domestic violence as well.
Okay, now this campaign you're going to talk to us about today is called A Minute of Noise.
It is, yes.
What's it about?
So the Minute of Noise is run by Global Good Foundation in conjunction with the John Curtin Leadership Academy, and we will be approaching schools around Australia to run a Minute of Noise in their school in order to raise money and awareness for people who have been affected by domestic violence. So the campaign basically involves getting as many students together as possible and letting them make as much noise as they can for 1 minute. The Minute of Noise actually symbolises the importance of ending the silence and the shame that is often experienced by children who have been impacted by domestic violence. So we basically want to show the kids that they do have a voice and make some noise to celebrate the happy lives that all kids deserve to live. So,
I mean, some of the reasons that kids might be silent about domestic violence are obvious. I mean, it might be fear.
Yep.
You mentioned shame. How hard is it to get those children to speak out?
I think it's just about encouraging them and letting them know that there is safe places to go, and there is people to speak to, and that there is people that can help with that. And I know we're going to be speaking to Julian later on, who will be able to give you more information about that.
Yes, we will. We'll speak to Dr. Julian Dooley. He's an Associate Director of the Selinger Centre for Research on Law and very much involved. He's the ambassador for this Global Good Foundation. You're a community worker from the Kwinana area. Is that what led you into this?
It is. I've worked with domestic violence quite a bit. I worked at a camp in America for 3 summers and ran it the second 2 summers, and a lot of that was working with children who have been impacted by domestic violence. I also spent 3 years working in the townships in Africa, where I also came across it on a daily basis. So seeing the impact that it has had on people led me to the organisation, and it's all gone from there.
So what work do you do with them?
Basically, similar to what GGF has been doing, we empower them, provide them with training or education that they can then use to help them in their situation and move forward from where they've been. Okay, well, let's move on now to Deirdre, who's joined us here. Deirdre actually is a counsellor and a therapist herself. But you've also been a victim of domestic violence, in fact, in 2 relationships that you had. It's a strange position for someone who gives advice to others to actually have suffered this as well.
Yes, that is correct. It is a strange position. However, what I'd like to say is that I'm human first, and I was caught in a situation and an environment that I was certainly unhappy with for a long, long time. I didn't know how to get out of it. What happens is when you're living with a person, they take away how you think mentally. You know, you think you're thinking okay, but they're able to brainwash you to think, are you thinking okay? They emotionally abuse you. So, you know, I used to get, well, I'm going to kill myself if you go and do something. So it's this whole emotional abuse that you get thrown on you. Domestic violence isn't only about physical. It's about mental, it's about emotional, it's about financial, spiritual. It's about taking the essence away from you as a person and leaving you hollow. it took me a long time, many years, to take the courage to step out and leave. And when I did leave, it was either I was going to kill myself or I was going to make a life. The best thing is I've made a life.
Deirdre, you went from one abusive relationship, a marriage,
Yes.
into another.
That's correct.
Was there a reason for that, do you think, looking back now? Do you...
When I look back and look at that, I didn't have the healing time to heal. I didn't step out of my life. I didn't realise that there could be a difference.
Were your antenna not up about when you moved into the second relationship? Were your antenna not up about am I repeating the pattern here?
What I like to say is that unless you know there is something different, you then are aware of that difference. And that's what needs to be educated to men, women, children, to enable them to know that there is something different. And if you don't have that education or awareness or knowledge, then you don't know. And we can't be judgmental on that.
In terms of this Minute of Noise campaign and breaking the silence of children who are also victims of domestic violence, even if they're not being assaulted themselves, they're victims of it because of what they see happening to their mother. Were there kids involved in your relationships?
Yes, there was.
Yep. And did you find that was an issue there, that your children couldn't do anything about it?
There was one time where I had a knife at my throat, and my daughter was witness to that. It was frightening, and I look back at that and think I should have left then. I didn't. There is a lot of things that I live with today that I'm working to heal, because we can't change the decisions we made then.
No,
we can only
right.
but heal ourselves today. And that's what's important, is to have that opportunity to step out of that and to be able to heal yourself, to become that empowered woman that you're capable of. And it's not only women, it's also men that are caught in the same situation as women.
How damaged was your daughter by that experience?
Very.
Has she recovered?
My daughter and I don't actually see each other at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, well, these tragedies often take a long time to fix, don't they?
They do. And I only pray that one day that my daughter can come back into my life.
It takes a lot of courage for someone like you to come and speak out about these issues publicly, and we're in a very public forum at the moment, and you're very exposed by that. Why have you decided to do this?
I've decided to do this to make people aware you can change. When I left my ex-partner some 2 years ago, I walked out of the house with nothing. I needed police protection just to get my clothes and personal items out of the house. I lost 75% of everything. Materialism is not everything. What is the essence of your own being, to be able to live a life that you can passionately get up every day and have that joy. What is to be who you are and to live truly to who you are. That's what's important. People can take a look at my life. I'm transparent with that. And say, if I can do this, then you can do this too. And that's what's important, is to say that everybody has the ability to change, to step out, to remove themselves from that situation, and to live a whole life, not just a part of a life.
How long did the second abusive relationship last?
20 years.
20? Wow. And was it constant throughout that time?
Yes.
That's an extraordinary experience for you.
Yes.
And the first one?
It was 7 years.
Extraordinary. Yeah.
And what I'd like to say also is for people not to be judgmental why people stay. They need support, not judgment.
Yeah. And sometimes love takes a long time to be broken, doesn't it? You know, it's sometimes very durable. I mean, even though terrible things are happening.
What is love?
Well, let's not get into that. We'll still be going at 8 o'clock this evening.
Yes.
Tanya, is this a familiar story?
It is, yes, very much so.
how difficult is it for people like Deirdre to make that decision to walk through the door and leave everything behind?
It's extremely difficult because that is the situation that they're used to, and there often is the unknown of where they're going to from there. And what we're trying to do is show them that there is the facilities available for further training, for the counselling they need, and the ongoing support after that initial crisis period has happened. And I think that's a big gap that has been had previously, whereby they have the initial counselling and there's no follow-up support afterwards. So what we're doing is providing that ongoing support for them.
Okay. We're talking to Tanya Dupayne and Deirdre. They're both involved in this Global Good Foundation new campaign you'll be hearing quite a bit about. It's called A Minute of Noise. We're going to take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk further about this. We're going to talk to an ambassador for Global Good Foundation called Dr. Julian Dooley. We'll also play you some of an advertising campaign that will start to try to get a focus on this. In the end, it's trying to convince kids to break their silence about what's happening within their homes. A difficult thing for them as well. Love to hear from you about this if you want to talk about it today. 92211 882 is the number. It's 18 minutes past 10.